improvising. Good morning. I'm Mary Rothschild, your worship associate, and I want to welcome all of you to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, a loving, welcoming community this very exciting morning. Whatever your heritage, whoever you choose to love, however your family is structured, and however you feel difference and sameness, you are welcome here in the sanctuary, on YouTube, and on Zoom. With this in mind, it is our great pleasure to welcome guests and visitors to our congregation. And we would love it if you would find the courage to rise in the sanctuary as you are able, so that we can greet you more fully after the service. Will you please rise, visitors? Thank you. I know that takes courage. For those of you who are new here on Zoom, please put your name in the chat so that other Zoomers can welcome you there. In the sanctuary, there will be a welcome circle in the back after the service, and you can ask any questions you may have about VUU or Unitarian Universalism more generally. And those of you on Zoom, both visitors and members, have access to breakout rooms following the service where you can meet others as a newcomer and ask questions if you like. If anyone needs a listening ear this morning, Randy Galbraith, Randy is in the back. Randy Galbraith, our pastoral care associate, will be at the front of the sanctuary following the service. And Dan Schulte is our pastoral care associate on Zoom. If you wish pastoral care on Zoom, you can put a message in the chat and then have a private conversation later with Dan. Further, anyone needing pastoral care during the week can write an email to pastoralcare@vuu.org. And lastly, I want to remind you all that today is the Lesbian Day of Visibility, which aims to create a safe and accepting community for all. Now I want to say what an extraordinary honor and pleasure it is for me to introduce the Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan to you all. I knew I didn't have to ask, but I was going to ask you to please join me in giving her a warm VUU welcome. Reverend Sarah is our candidate for settled minister, and we on the Ministerial Search Committee are thrilled and excited that this day has finally arrived. More than 60 of you met Reverend Sarah yesterday at our first reception for her, and there are many more opportunities to meet her, which you can discover in happenings and on our website. Following the service and coffee, Reverend Sarah will be over at the Faith Formation Picnic on the RE side of campus, and you are welcome to meet her there as well. Reverend Sarah's sermon today will be on the importance of stories to our lives and our communities. As all of my students know, I believe studying history helps us to know the past, which allows us to better understand our present and gives us the tools to imagine and accomplish change in the future. I believe history is as important as anything we do, and it is all about stories. My first serious history project was writing about the Northern students who went south to work as volunteers in the civil rights movement in the Southern Freedom Summers in 1964 and 65, which became my MA thesis, my PhD dissertation, and my first book, A Case of Black and White Northern Students in the Southern Freedom Summers. The problem was I started this project in the fall of 1966. So I didn't have many traditional sources, and many professors in my department thought I was really doing journalism. But my thesis director, who himself had gone to Mississippi, suggested the topic and encouraged me every step of the way. Without many sources, I started interviewing the ordinary students and staff who worked in the Southern Civil Rights Summers, though traditionally oral histories at that time were only taken of famous people. In the beginning, I lugged a 30-pound reel-to-reel tape recorder to each interview. So when I got my first cassette tape recorder in 1969 that weighed 7 pounds, I thought technology couldn't get more fabulous. Now, of course, we can do oral histories on our iPhones with video, which I confess still seems magical. Collecting these stories from student volunteers, professionals who came to help, and civil rights icons like Fannie Lou Hamer all fed my soul and made my project come alive. Doing what became called bottom-up oral history transformed my work and my life. As many of you also know, I'm a fourth-generation Washingtonian, and I moved east to come to Arizona. I grew up with sturdy, competent Western women and was stunned to learn that, although Arizona history was required of every student here, one of the 2 certified books, the total mention of women was 1 sentence in one and 2 sentences in the other. That compelled me to begin a new oral history project, interviewing self-described ordinary women, not the first politician or the first doctor, so that people would understand how important women's work was in building Arizona. With a group of graduate students and funded by the Arizona Humanities Council, we interviewed about 40 women over 70 years of age, which led to Readers Theater presentations all over the state, a slide tape program shown literally thousands of times around the state to schools to make up for what they were getting, and clubs, and the book Doing What the Day Brought, an oral history of Arizona women. Getting those stories and making them available honored women's work and gave us a more complete Arizona history. I have for many years thought how much I would love to teach a faith formation class on how to do oral history so that we could do oral histories of our families and church members who have been with this congregation for a long time. It's one of my dreams for us to tell our stories and make them available for generations to come. I've got lots of the UU stories, and I know many, many of you do too. So I can hardly wait to hear what Reverend Sarah has to say about stories. And I can't believe the serendipity of her wanting to preach on something so dear to my heart. I'm so glad to be with you here today to introduce you to Reverend Sarah, to celebrate our moving forward as a congregation, and most importantly, to welcome you into worship this morning in our community. Welcome, friends. I'm so glad you're here. Now is the time to light our chalice. If you're on Zoom, bring your chalice near, and we'll say the words to light our chalice. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marcy Bodwin, your Director of Faith Formation here at Valley UU. It's time for our Time for All Ages, so I want to invite all the children who are willing to come sit down front, and if you're on Zoom and you've got children, now's the time to bring them in front of your screen. So come on down, sit on the floor in front. Yeah, some of the aisles are pretend. They have dead ends on them. Sorry about that. Okay, so just so you know, we're going to start with a story today, but we have a 2-part Time for All Ages, so don't go anywhere after I finish the story, okay? All right. Couple more. Come on down. I feel like saying the price is right. So we're telling stories today, and we all have stories, and each of them is different. And the story I'm going to share with you today begins when this author crossed a bridge from Mexico into Texas. The author and her son consider themselves dreamers, but in a sense that they are carried by their hopes and dreams to build a better future. So the book is titled Dreamers, and it's by Juji Morales. I dreamed of you, and then you appeared. Together we became amor, love, amor. Resplendent life, you and I. One day, we bundled gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. Adios, Corazon. And when we made it to the other side, thirsty, in awe, unable to go back, we became immigrants. Migrantes, you and I. The sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. There were so many things we didn't know, unable to understand, afraid to speak. We made lots of mistakes. You and I became caminantes. Thousands and thousands of steps we took around this land until the day we found a place we'd never seen before. Suspicious, improbable, unbelievable, surprising, unimaginable. Where we didn't need to speak, we only needed to trust, and we did. Books became our language. Books became our home. Books became our lives. We learned to read, to speak, to write, to make our voices heard. Someday we will become something we haven't yet imagined. But right now, we are stories. We are two languages. We are lucha. We are resilient. We are hope. We are dreamers, sonadores of the world. We are love, amor, love. So for our second half today, Katie is going to teach us a song, and the kids are going to help us with it.
Okay, good morning. I'm Katie Seifert, the Director of Music Ministries, and I am so excited to be with you this morning, welcoming Reverend Sarah here. And if you've noticed, our house band has resurrected this morning as well. So exciting. And we're going to teach you a real easy call and repeat song. And it goes like this. I'm going to say the first phrase and you're going to repeat it back. It's got a real fun groove to it, so allow your body to move. It goes like this. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. You repeat. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this wonderful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this wonderful, this beautiful day. All right, good job. Just keep that groove. And forgot to say good morning to our friends on Zoom. Just know we're thinking of you online, whether you're on YouTube. There you are, jamming with us still. YouTube or Zoom. And let's give a shout to everybody in the congregation so that our beautiful friends online can see their friends here in the sanctuary. Can we give a camera shot to the sanctuary? It's coming. Here we go. Good morning. On the count of 3, let's do a big good morning. See if we can do it with music. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Again, let's sing. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this wonderful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this wonderful, this beautiful day.
And the kids are going to help us insert new words for day. So, Sophia, what's your word? Family.
All right. Thank you for our family. 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 Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful family. Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful family.
Zelda, what's your word?
Ooh, animals. Yes. I love the animals. Here we go. Thank you for the animals. 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 These beautiful, wonderful, beautiful animals. Wonderful, beautiful animals.
What's your word? Love.
All right, here we go with love. Thank you for our love, Spirit. Thank you for our love. Thank you for our love, Spirit. Thank you for our love. Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful love. Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful love.
Lucy and Stone, what's our next word?
Pets. Here we go with pets. Thank you for our pets, Spirit. Thank you for our pets. Thank you for our pets, Spirit. Thank you for our pets. Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful pets. Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful pets.
Mattea. That's stretch in. What's your word? Freedom.
Freedom. Such good words. Thank you for sharing yourselves with us, for sharing what you're thankful for. Let's do it with freedom now. All right, here we go. Thank you for our freedom. 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 Our beautiful, our wonderful, our beautiful freedom. Let's say community. Thank you for community. Thank you for community. Thank you for our community. Thank you for our community. This beautiful, this wonderful, this beautiful community. Beautiful, this wonderful, this beautiful community.
We need a special way to send these kids out. Now, kids, remember, we're going to go down the aisles and out the foyer doors. Adults, it's time to celebrate. Get your poppers ready. All right, kids, we're going to class. Meet your teachers out on the patio.
We're going to sing Thank You for Our Children. 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 It's wonderful, it's beautiful, wonderful children. These beautiful, wonderful, these beautiful children. Thank you for our kids, Spirit. Thank you for our kids. Thank you for our kids, Spirit. Thank you for our kids. These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful kids. These beautiful, wonderful, these beautiful kids.
It's a very good day today. Our call to worship this morning is by Richard Gilbert. We meet on holy ground. We meet on holy ground brought into being as life encounters life, as personal histories merge into the communal story, as we take on the pride and pain of our companions, as separate selves become community. How desperate is our need for one another, our silent beckoning to our neighbors, our invitations to share life and death together, our welcome into the lives of those we meet, and their welcome into our own. May our souls capture this treasured time. May our spirits celebrate our meeting in this time and in this space, for we meet on holy ground.
So this is the time in our service when we take up. Is it on? Can you hear me? Nope. Here we go. There we go. No? All right. This will make sense in a minute, I swear. Has to do with short people. So this is a time in our service when we celebrate generosity. And I share these words from John Saxon as we begin the time of the offering. This religious community exists by its mission as a fire exists by burning. But a fire cannot burn without fuel. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels your mission and vision to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission. And without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. So thank you for all the gifts that you share with this community.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Now is our time of centering. As we mentioned this morning, Mary mentioned, today is the day of visibility for lesbians. And this just organically happened that our centering music, we'd be blessed with a beautiful couple, Trisha and Bobby, that have been together for 11 years and married for 9 years. Woo! And as a community and a congregation, we want to say we see you, and you are beautiful, and you bring so much to us, and we are so blessed to have you bring your music to us as well. So we're going to allow this next song. It's called The River by Coco Love Alcorn. Actually, Reverend Sarah recommended it, and it's new to us. We've fallen in love with it. And we're going to allow this song to center us and remind us to come into our body and come into that place where we are bigger than who we think we are on a day-to-day basis. There'll be a point in the song where I invite you to sing along. The words are, water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole.
The river is a healer. The river is a sage. The river knows no end, and the river feels no age. The river is a leader every single day. It's in the moment, and it always finds a way. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. The river calls me over. It's calling out my name. In the day and in the night, I hear that river all the same. It's calling me over, calling out my pain. Oh, a river gathers tears just like a river gathers rain. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I
This is where you'll sing with us. Water, heal my body.
Water, heal my body.
Water, heal my soul.
Water, heal my soul.
When I go down,
When I go
down,
down, down
to the water,
by
the water, I feel whole.
I feel whole.
Sing with us. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul.
When I go down, down
To the water, by the water, I feel whole. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. Sing with us. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. One more time. Water, heal my body. Water, heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole.
We can grow by simply listening. The way the tree on that ridge listens to its branches to the sky. The way blood listens to its flow to the site of a wound. The way you listen like a basin when my head, so full of grief, can't look you in the eye. We can listen our way out of howling, the way the heart can soften the wolf we keep inside. We can last by listening deeply, the way roots listen for the next inch of earth, the way the old turtle listens all he hears into the pattern of his shell. May we learn to listen deeply to one another and to make space for each other's stories. Amen.
Hello, there we go. There's a tendency when you meet somebody new that you want to put on your best self. And I invite us this week as we spend with Reverend Sarah to show her all parts of us as she will show us all parts of her. Because it's those imperfections that make us unique. That's what gives us our gifts. So this next song was written, Andrew and I wrote it, embracing probably not our best quality. And it's called the ADD song. Yes, at the time we were getting a lot of slack from our friends for showing up late and whatnot. But to be fair, we did just have a baby. But nonetheless, this song is about embracing those imperfections and celebrating the gifts that they bring. There'll be a part in the song that we invite you to sing along. The lyrics are, we live, we laugh, we learn, and we love. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So here's the ADD song. Sideways, these shoes look good on me. I hope you still love me when I'm Stacy. I promise you there's still a lot to me. I live and I love, I learn and I love, and I live and I love. I'll stop to smell a rose. I see my life in color. I hear the sounds and song by cookie-cutter standards. I may daydream too long. I hope you still love me when I'm Stacy. I promise you there's still a lot to me. I live and I love. I learn and I love, and I live and I love. I learn and I love. Woo! you still love me when I'm spacey. I promise you there's still a lot to me. I live and I love, I learn and I love, and I live and I love, I learn and I love. This is where we're going to invite you to sing along, because we all are perfections. It's okay, we're safe here. So we live, we laugh, and we love. We live and we love. We learn and we love, and we live and we love. We learn and we love. We live and we love. We learn and we love. One more. We live and we love. We learn and we love.
So there are many stories that lead to this day, the one in which I am with you here in this place for a week of discernment. And it begins with a search committee. And I wanted to invite two people from that committee to share with you just a little bit about that journey and their commitment to this community. If we were building a campfire together, this might be the kindling. And I invite Barb Quijada to come forward.
In November of 2020, this congregation elected 7 individuals to form the Ministerial Search Committee, whose work is culminating this week. Reverend Sarah has asked Carl and me to reflect on that work. I came to this committee reluctantly, not because I doubted its importance, but because I have an almost pathological dislike of committee work. In the past, I've found it easier to say either just tell me what to do and I'll do it, or leave it to me and it'll get done. I'm here today to say that working with the other members of the MSC over the last year and a half has taught me more than anything I've ever taken part in here at VUU or professionally, the value and importance of teamwork. Here's my brief but spectacular take on how the MSC got the job done. We had Mary Rothschild, historian by profession, who, thank God, had been on the last search committee, knew its history, and could tell us what really worked and what didn't. I hope she will forgive me for saying jokingly more than once, so tell me what you really think, Mary. You know her. David Shea is a gentle but tough taskmaster who kept us ahead of deadlines, brushing aside my pleas for at least 1 week off, because whatever it was on the checklist, it didn't really need to be done until the end of the month. Nope, we'd check it off David's spreadsheet and meet every UUA transitions office deadline ahead of schedule. I learned that Janice Miller recruits CEOs in her professional life. And we were so lucky to have her head the negotiations part of the MSC team. My eyes glaze over when money is the focus of a meeting, never mind reading contract fine print. I'm sure it will all work out is not an acceptable response. Janice let me know. When dealing with contracts or planning for congregational conversations. And Janice has modeled for the whole committee the hard work and attention to detail required for successful outcome. Every once in a while, we get so bogged down in minutia or fear of failure or the overlapping needs of our assigned tasks that we'd be talking over each other on Zoom, and our voices, well, mine and Mary's at least, would be rising higher and higher, and the emotions would be threatening to boil over. Every time that happened, it was Chris Sarr who came to our rescue. Even when he was driving back and forth from Prescott, talking to us on his car speaker, Chris was the calming presence who advised, trust the process. It's there for a reason. He's right, you know. Carl Anderson is the quiet one on the committee. He appears to be immune to long, rambling email threads. I've learned a lot from him about not hitting send. And in meetings when it sometimes seemed we'd reached a stalemate and might never come to agreement, I learned to wait for it. Carl would unmute and voice the kindest, most logical reframing of the issue to lead us forward. As I said in the beginning, we've become a team of friends more than a committee, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to work with these lovely, smart, compassionate individuals. And all those spelling and grammar errors that somehow made it into the happenings, past team edits and revisions and into happenings and email blasts, those were mine. Thanks for your tolerance. It's been a real pleasure to do this work and for the work for this congregation that I love so much.
Hello, my friends. My heart is happy to see all of you here today. Thank you, Barb, for outlining the Ministerial Search Committee journey to this point. So full disclosure, I will quote Proverbs 17, verse 28 to explain my quietness. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. In the context of the search that started in November of 2020, we were in the midst, since March of 2020, of a worldwide pandemic that has profoundly changed everyone's life. On top of that, in our congregation, we had a new music director, had also lost a beloved administrator, and were unable to be together. We were making changes to adapt to a new way of being in community and worship, and were fearful that we were losing our beloved community. So I want to tell you about the next part of our journey, the next part of our story. As time has passed, the situation has improved. We have a new administrator. We are meeting again. Our live music program is returning as a part of our live worship, and we can be together in person. As I have been in conversation with many of you, I have felt the energy and enthusiasm about moving ahead. And here's what the future will be like. We will not be the same. We will keep what is important and leave some things behind. We will rebuild and develop ourselves to continue to help our marginalized fellow humans and our environment. We will be a voice in local politics and strengthen interdenominational connections. And maybe most importantly, we will be a place that offers an open door to individuals and families to pursue their spiritual journeys and love them for who they are. Our missing piece has been the leader who will help us move ahead, and the search committee believes that on May 1st, we will welcome that new leader. In closing, I am excited for you to meet and get to know Reverend Sarah. I am excited for those of you who were new to BUU just prior and during the pandemic. And I'm excited for our future as we recalibrate our priorities and get back to the job of making Arizona and the world a better place. And I am excited for all the new people who will be walking through our doors because we are making that difference. So please welcome the Ministerial Search Committee candidate for Settled Minister, Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan.
Wow, and I haven't even given you a sermon yet. I want to open with these words from a poem called Fire. What makes a fire burn is space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight, can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and absence of the fuel together that make fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. Judy Brown. So, come gather around the campfire with me, okay? We have stories to tell and a future to build. The spiritual and religious experiences I had growing up were primarily from outdoor explorations and camping, from the books that I devoured like apples from a perch in a tree, and the people in my life who shared their stories and listened to mine. In particular, my grandparents had a mountain ranch in Colorado that was a paradise for me. I spent countless hours exploring and climbing boulder rock formations, laying on my back and gazing into the sunlit sky from the very top, discovering hidden magical locations of trees and rocks and small caves. I was visibly alone, but in my mind and soul, I was surrounded by the spirits of the place, with birds and squirrels and chipmunks and rabbits and the occasional deer standing in for family and friends. My grandmother had introduced me to these places and bequeathed me with its keeping. And I felt I had inherited a true earthly kingdom. So from rock climbing to fire tending and stargazing, my young outdoor life was full of imagination and joy. For me, these experiences were spiritual and religious because I developed an inner life and deeper reverence for life from these experiences. At the end of the day, sitting beside a campfire or perhaps inside my grandparents' cabin next to the fireplace was a time of storytelling. And when I was younger, the adults told stories while I roasted the marshmallow or two and learned to tend the fire. Now, I sometimes refer to myself as growing up unchurched, but from another angle, I just grew up differently churched. While the campfire might have been my first experience of a place where I could share my stories, I experienced congregational life as a different version of the campfire, a place and time where we can listen to each other and share something that is both basic to human nature and sacred. My first experiences of a UU congregation were with the women my mother's age when I was in my early 20s, who gathered to engage in ritual and the study of the feminine divine, who shared their journeys in stories and labyrinth walks and songs. These women were my models and mentors as a young adult beginning a new career, and later as a newly married person, as a first-time parent, and even later they saw me through more difficult life changes like divorce and remarriage and entering seminary. At each turn in my life, I could imagine them around the corners of the labyrinth, walking ahead or behind me, singing softly, loving me into the next challenge. They tended the spaces in between with wisdom and humor and compassion. When we sit at the campfire, we may be transformed by starlight and dancing embers and leaning in to hear each other amid the nighttime sounds around us. We may tell stories and sing together. There is a space between our stories and our longings, in between our declarations and our actions. Just like the fire, we need some places to breathe and grow. And here in the sanctuary, we may be transformed by eyes lit in recognition of our presence and leaning in to welcome one another and lighting a chalice together. We may tell stories and sing together. And there is a space between our stories and our longings, and between our declarations and our actions. Just like the fire, we need some places to breathe and grow. At the campfire, my prayers are held silently at the end of the night by the last flickering of the flames and the quiet that falls when almost everyone else has gone to bed. Here in the sanctuary, my prayers, spoken and unspoken, are held by the hearts of those gathered with me. Sparks lit and carried from the sanctuary out into our shared lives and communities. We tend the spaces in between us. Why do we gather in community this way? For Sunday worship, for weddings and memorial services, for the blessings of babies. The communities that we belong to also hold us, hold our memories and our intentions, our struggles and our triumphs, our stories. We gather so that we might not grieve or celebrate alone. At its best, our community becomes a place of healing and a source of strength. It's the same reason that pilgrimage is both a personal journey and a shared journey. The people who travel with us, even if only briefly, share our memories, our celebrations and our challenges, our sorrows and our joys, our stories, right? In gathering, we're also tending to each other, just as we tend the flames of the fire. There's work to be done to keep the flames from being too hot and from escaping the fire pit, and also to ensure the flames don't just go out when we need them most, to cook our meal or warm our hands and to keep us company. This is the work of creating a community that is vital and whole. We tend to the spaces in between. So come, let us sit at this campfire together. As we tend to one another and listen to each other's stories, we will build more resilient and thriving communities. Just like the fires we build, tend, and sit next to, the circles of community we build have the capacity to change us and to change the world. And just like the fires we tend, we have the capacity to bring the energy of life or destructive consummation. The gifts of community are worthy of our attention. We need to be brave with each other, knowing that each of us bring many different tools, perspectives, gifts, and energy to this shared work. And it's not just work, right? When we experience deep connection, we can also experience joy. So the stars that we gaze on are the firelight of the sky, the reminder that we are made up of starlight and stardust, and there is more beyond our knowing. When we look out into the heavens together, we see the evidence of our interrelatedness throughout the universe. We used to think that stars emerged individually, but now scientists realize that stars emerge in clusters and greatly influence one another. And we also know that reality is made up of all of the same basic materials. So more poetically, David Bumbaugh says, we are here dedicated to the proposition that beneath all our differences, behind all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We tend the spaces between. We tell our stories, we listen. As a faith community, we must learn to practice radical love with each other, and then we bring that practice into the world around us. We begin with sharing our stories. Now, some of us tell ghost stories, and some of us tell jokes and stories that make us laugh. But to be brave is also to share the harder stories, the ones that let others know about the things that really haunt us, the stories that reveal our pain behind the laughter, the stories where we have struggled and been lost and felt pain, the stories we want to tell, but we don't always have the words to tell. We tend the spaces between us. To be perhaps even a little braver is to be able to reflect on ourselves and find our own role in these stories, to notice what the story has to teach us and to remind us about our own condition. I like to remind myself that I can always live a new story, and so can you. When we listen to each other and when we bravely share ourselves, one of the most crucial gifts we can offer is to create what I call grace and space. This means that we create space for people to discern their own path, to say no to things that don't seem to be a good fit or use of their resources, and to also make mistakes. And grace and space can be harder too. It can mean simply letting go or making room for something new, even as we grieve a loss or hold our anger. Like a fire, a healthy community needs structures and space in between the material of inspiration or destruction. A healthy community needs to develop the capacity to stop, listen, consider, and to allow different ideas to be heard and different strategies to be tried, and to allow individuals to discern their own contributions and needs. You heard such a lovely example of that in the story of the Ministerial Search Committee. We tend the spaces between us. Now, there are many stories that this congregation has lived and many stories still being created. What stories will you be telling in 10 years about the community you're building today, together, this year? This is an important question because hopefully the answer lies inside of each of you, but also outside of these walls altogether. Like the circle that is around the campfire that tends the flames and minds the coals while sharing their stories, congregations have enormous influence on the world around them, for better and for worse. Left untended, the fire dies or the flames escape and become a wildfire. While the flame is lit and shared among us, our inspired actions can dismantle oppression and resurrect love. It is unfortunately also true that faith communities are responsible for a great many burned bridges and missed opportunities. So the story that we live together and tell together requires deep presence and listening if we want it to be a story that is truly life-giving and not a wildfire of destruction. This is where we find the power to change the world and to make a difference on a scale that we wouldn't imagine by ourselves alone. So the question we are left with as we are gathered around this campfire is, what gifts do you bring and what commitments will you make? How can we listen to and hear each other's distinct truths while also sharing ourselves and our discoveries? How can we remain in the conversation even when it confronts us with our own mistakes and shortcomings? Even when the conversation takes us into places where we are uncomfortable or uncertain. Elizabeth Johnson says that the desire to serve each other in our world comes from this reality of our interconnections. Woven into our lives is the very fire from the stars and the genes from the sea creatures, and everyone, utterly everyone, she says, is kin to the radiant tapestry of being. This relationship is not external or extrinsic to who we are, but wells up as the defining truth to who we are and the defining truth from our deepest being. As this community continues to emerge and grow, the challenge is to allow diversity while maintaining solidarity, to tend the spaces in between us. So let us sit at this campfire together this week. Let us begin to share our stories today and this week, and into the future we may choose to share. And into the future we may choose to share together. Blessed be, and may it be so.
Thank you, Reverend Sarah. Ah, so exciting. Well, we're going to sing probably our most favorite song as a congregation. And it's really lovely to do that with Reverend Sarah here. So please stand and let's close out singing our story, our favorite hymn, Blue Boat Home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon I rudder, and I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, ever great winds urging me on. Greet the infant at sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Our closing words today are by Rachel Naomi Riemann from Kitchen Table Wisdom. Hidden in all stories is the one story. The more we listen, the clearer that universal story becomes. Our true identity, who we are, why we are here, what sustains us, is in this story. The stories at every kitchen table are about the same things. Stories of owning, having and losing, stories of sex, of power, of pain, of wounding, of courage, hope, and healing, of loneliness and the end of loneliness, stories about God. In telling them, we are telling each other the human story. And now it's time for us to extinguish our chalice. So please join with me in saying, though we extinguish this chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Blessed be.
glad you got to play that. I'm sorry it got skipped. I know, right? I know. I was in shock that you caught up with me.